I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. I stopped at the Heritage Company. Right there by the front door, they had a whole pile of planes. What I looked the most at was this number 7. $85. Not too bad a shape, not too bad a price. Now this, I suppose you could say, well, it's an old one and it's antique, but $30? Not for me. Same deal here, no background sounds because they had music playing, and whenever there's music playing, I get copyright strikes. So we're just gonna have to go through it. You have to suffer along with what background music I put in and the dulcet tones that I use when I'm describing things. Kalamazoo has a thriving pharmacy business. So there's a lot of things in here that I don't recognize, but I'm assuming there's some kind of chemistry items for biological chemistry. Weighing out compounds and things like that. I know they've got test tubes and beakers and flasks at a lot of the antique stores that I go to. Now this is kind of interesting. It's a lock for a door. That's the kind that you would put on the top of a door, and it goes up into the jamb and locks the door in two places, so you can't get through it by just forcing the latch. Roger has a huge collection of antique hardware. This is just square cut nails. You can buy them $1 a piece. Now this room is kind of interesting. I've gotten a few things out of here, but it's mostly odd stuff, like the hardware off telephone poles and power poles. Whole stack of toolboxes. This is something new. Hadn't seen toolboxes in this area before, but quite a few little metal toolboxes, some of them homemade, some of them purchased, I'm sure. Duck decoys, just odd little things. Shoe last. Then here's a cabinet that I was kind of interested in. It's all kinds of little things, and usually the prices are crazy in here, but these were kind of, they were things that you might buy $10, $15, which seems like a lot, but they're unique little items. This is a Craftsman Vise, and it's pretty dear. I forget exactly what the price was, but I believe it was $200. Since Roger does clean-outs, they're going to tear down an old house. He goes in and cleans out the stuff in it, strips out the inside, and then they tear down the house. Sometimes people strip out a house and bring him the stuff. Interesting group of bound books by famous authors. And Roger likes plants and typewriters. Kind of an interesting one. It's not marked for price. I think it's just there as a display. Cool old chair there. Captain's chair. That's not a bad price, that little kettle. Prices are going up on everything. interesting pair of shears, but nothing I need. There's test tubes that I was telling you about. This is a cool stained glass window. I don't know if that came out of a business or a house. Might be a church. But it looks more like something out of the front of a big house. They used to put those up over a big front window in the house. Victorians especially. And this is beer cans from all over hell. Somebody's put up a big display of containers. And you can see off to the side that there's doors. In the room right below this, it's a whole room completely stacked full with just little aisles full of doors. Doors with glass in them, solid doors. Mostly the paneled doors, the old paneled doors from houses. If you're looking for a paneled door, Roger and the Heritage Company is the place to go. This big old bruiser, that's an expensive one. Funny, I got one bolted to the bench very similar to that. Didn't think it was worth that much. Oh, and this is one I looked at a while back. I never really got the price on it, and I didn't read the label well, and I didn't spend enough time on it. That's a fishing shanty heater, little kerosene heater for a fishing shanty. That's a big toolbox. I don't know if you'd take that out on a job or it was just something that somebody rolled around the factory. Now Kalamazoo's got a lot of factories. The Checker plant where they made checkered cabs is on the north side of town. It's huge. I've been in there. Checker had its own locomotive engine inside the building. They're still operating. They have huge presses in there. They're making parts for automotive vehicles. When I worked for Product Action, we went in and sorted parts there a few times. This is a Stanley miter box with a Diston saw. It's a Stanley, made for Stanley. It's a made by Diston. Very nice saw. Very nice miter box. I don't know how accurate it is anymore. They tend to wear a little bit, and I don't know if you can get the pieces and parts to make it accurate again. But it does have the clamping devices for holding the wood in place. Those little buggers are hard to find. They're the first thing people take out, and then they get lost. Mine doesn't have them. Mine's a newer model than this one, too. I believe the price on the miter box was $185. Here are boxes of tiles. Now, I've thrown away tiles. Not quite that many, but a good couple 100 pounds. That is a cool thing. It's a gold, could be brass polished or gold plated hardware for a bathtub. And that is an old ceiling light. Kind of fascinated by lights. Roger has a business in one of the rooms downstairs repairing lights. He takes old lights out of buildings, cleans them up, rewires them, and gets them going again. Lots of hardware. Door handles, hinges, pins, latches. Kind of stands to reason with that many doors downstairs. A lot of hardware came with them. And here's glass tile. And it says, all the glass tile is sold. Well, you think, okay, that one basket. No, there's lots of glass tiles. Bins and buckets and piles of them. There's a miter box. It's a newer brand. Not a very good one. Those are all glass tiles. And these are columns for inside of a building. Front porch columns. A lot of the older houses had pony walls that divided the living space from the front entrance, and they would have a pillar on top of the pony wall going up to the ceiling, because the ceilings were 10 feet high. That's a nice piece of glassware. And strap hinges. Strap hinges that I wouldn't bother looking at. $35 a piece. But Roger has the traffic that looking for a strap hinge that would come in and buy it. If I had a pair of strap hinges and tried to sell them for $35, I'd probably hang on to them for years. That's an old amplifier set. And that looks like a CB radio. That's an interesting wooden vise. I dropped the handle, so everything's kind of out of focus here as I pick the handle up and try and put it back into the vise. There it is. And here's the tool rack. This is my favorite stop at Heritage Company. I like walking down the shelves because there's always something new. This is where I got the cast iron clamp-on angle vise. And there's another one. That one also is dated as being having the patent of 117. But this one's aluminum. Bunch of interesting stuff. Some of it I don't even know what it is. That's some kind of a pump. Couldn't tell you what it's for, but that's a pump handle and a piston that operates up and down inside that cylinder. It's got a couple of ports on it, but don't know what it does. Bits and parts of bits. Lots of hand drills. Some Miller Falls. I held it up so I could read the writing on the handle. When you get one of those, you want to check the handle, because the handle's got usually a stamped name in it. And I'm looking at that auger bit, and I'll come back to it in a little bit. Yankee screwdriver. Another little drill. Braces. Oh, one of the lanterns like Scout Crafter has. Kind of an interesting piece. Tin shears. Little insulators. I don't know what those wood blocks are. I don't know if it's some kind of a printer's device or something used for something. The one has leather tacked on it. I don't have any idea what it's for. If you can't tell already, I'm looking for something on these shelves to buy because I always like finding something on the shelves. That was marked $20. Interesting. But I already have one, and I don't need an aluminum one, and I'm not into collecting. Well, I shouldn't say that, I guess. I do have some that you might consider being collectible. That lamp there is one that Rogers, one of the crew there, is reworking upstairs while he's watching the cash register. I was looking to see if I could see a name on this wrench. Wasn't one visible. This looks like some kind of a scabbard for a drill. Don't know. Not familiar with AWP. I'm picking up a Goodell Pratt breast drill. Interesting one. It's a 2-speed with a transmission. In other words, it's got a little shifter down there that makes it so that it either drives off the center smaller gear on the bull gear, or it's running on the outer one. So you got high speed and low speed. But it's in pretty sad shape, and I already have a nicer Goodell Pratt. But it is an old one. But I'm trying to limit myself so that I don't buy something that I already have many of. That's a hedge trimmer that hooks onto a drill motor. There were a lot of those little gimmick things, father-in-law gifts. That lead hammer is interesting. It's a nice handle, but once again, I have too many of those. Some I made, some I purchased, some of them were given to me. Lots of wooden handle pipe wrenches, which I had a big thing for a while back, but now I have a wall covered with them and don't need them. Don't need any more of them. Crimping tool. take a closer look at that auger bent. Well, it's bent. They can be straightened, but I come to the end of it, and it's rusted beyond salvation. Threads are gone off the pilot, and the cutting edges are deteriorated to the point where you'd have to cut it back and then add a new thread, and it's not worth it. Just not worth it. There's that little screwdriver again. Now, if it had sound, which we can't do, you'd hear me asking him about this little screwdriver, telling him it's a Yankee screwdriver, and him saying, well, $5. So I walk up to the counter and pull $5 out of my wallet. And he's on the phone, and I'm out the door. On my way out, I take a quick look at a few things. Then I'm on my way to the street. Roger likes to feed the birds. There's a flock of sparrows and one lone duck walking down the sidewalk, who flew away. Right about here, I decide to take off my Fauci safety apparel, and while I'm doing it, it grabs a hold of my hearing aid and pops it out. Right there. Then I spent the rest of a half an hour looking around on the floor, looking around on the sidewalk, looking around on the potted plant until a nice passerby helped me find it, lost in the bark underneath the pine tree there. This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union, without the express written permission of the parents or legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.